I'm Madison Anderson, 28 years old, and what happened at my sister's wedding changed our family forever. My father threatened to destroy my youngest brother's medical school dreams if I didn't give a glowing speech about my successful sister at her $100,000 wedding. He had no idea I'd been secretly running a tech company worth $50 million. The look on his face when I handed him those documents in front of 200 guests? Priceless. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you exactly what went down in that ballroom, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. I love connecting with all of you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and local time in the comments below. I'm always amazed at how far these stories reach. Now let me take you back to that Saturday evening in June, when my entire family learned that the disappointment daughter they'd been mocking for years had been playing a much longer game than any of them imagined. The grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton was exactly the kind of venue Sophie would choose. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across 200 guests dressed in their finest. The floral arrangements alone probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. White orchids and roses imported from Ecuador, arranged by some celebrity florist Sophie had bragged about for months. I stood near the entrance, clutching my small silver clutch, watching Sophie float through the crowd in her custom Vera Wang gown. $15,000 of silk and lace, she'd made sure everyone knew. My own dress, a simple navy blue number I'd bought online, suddenly felt even plainer. Madison, my father's voice cut through the classical music. Robert Anderson, former VP of Chase Manhattan, still commanded attention at 58. He gripped my elbow and steered me toward a quiet corner behind the gift table. "We need to talk about your speech." "What speech?" I kept my voice level. "Don't play dumb, the one you're giving in." He checked his Rolex. Exactly 10 minutes, right after the best man. I saw my mother across the room, watching us with that familiar look of disappointment mixed with expectation. Sophie stood beside her, whispering something that made them both glance my way and share a knowing smile. "I never agreed to give a speech, Dad." His grip tightened. "Your brother's tuition is due next month. $80,000. He leaned closer, his cologne overwhelming. "You will get up there and tell everyone how proud you are of Sophie's achievements, how she's the successful daughter every parent dreams of." In the distance, I caught sight of Tyler, my 19-year-old brother, anxiously adjusting his tie. Second-year medical student, pediatrics hopeful, currently trapped under Dad's financial thumb. The wedding coordinator's voice echoed through the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, in just 10 minutes, we'll hear from the bride's sister, Madison Anderson, followed by our cake-cutting ceremony." 200 heads turned to look at me, some with curiosity, others with that particular brand of pity reserved for the family underachiever. I recognized several of Dad's banking colleagues, Sophie's law firm partners, and worst of all, Marcus's family, old money from Connecticut, who already looked at our family like we were trying too hard. Sophie glided over, Marcus trailing behind her. "Madison, sweetie," she cooed loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I know public speaking isn't your thing, but just speak from the heart about how proud you are. Keep it short and sweet, okay?" "Sophie, the teleprompter has some suggestions if you freeze up." Her smile never wavered, but her eyes were steel. "We wouldn't want a repeat of your college graduation disaster." Several guests within earshot chuckled. They remembered. Of course they did. The time I'd frozen during my valedictorian speech, the one achievement Dad couldn't ignore, and had to sit down after 30 seconds of silence. Tyler appeared at my side, voice barely a whisper. "Maddie, please, just do what they want. I can't lose medical school, I can't." The wedding coordinator approached with a microphone. "Ms. Anderson, we're ready for you." My fingers found the envelope in my clutch. 3 documents, 3 years of secrets. I'd brought them as insurance, thinking maybe I'd just endure another family humiliation. But looking at Tyler's desperate face, at Sophie's smug certainty, at Dad's controlling grip on everything he touched, I took the microphone. "Actually, I'd like my father to join me on stage." "Dad?" Would you please come up? The room fell into that expectant hush that comes before speeches. My father straightened his tie, clearly pleased. He probably thought I was going to defer to him, let him speak first about his successful daughters. Well, one successful daughter. As we walked toward the small stage near the head table, memories flooded back. 3 years of board meetings held in secret. 3 years of lying about freelance projects while building something extraordinary. 3 years of letting them think I was a failure. The envelope felt like it weighed 50 pounds. Sophie had taken her seat at the head table, basking in the attention. Marcus's parents sat rigidly proper, waiting to judge whatever came out of my mouth. The photographer Sophie had hired circled like a vulture, ready to capture the moment. But there was another photographer in the corner, one I'd hired myself, though nobody knew that yet. Dad took the microphone first, of course. Before Madison speaks, let me just say how proud Linda and I are of our Sophie, Yale Law, junior partner at 36, and now married to the wonderful Marcus Chen. He paused for applause. Family is about supporting each other's successes. He handed me the microphone with a look that said, "Your turn. Don't screw this up." I looked out at the sea of faces, found Tyler in the third row, his hands clenched in his lap. Saw my mother already dabbing at her eyes, ready for the emotional moment when I'd finally acknowledge Sophie's superiority publicly. "Thank you, Dad." My voice came out steadier than expected. "Actually, before I talk about Sophie, I have something for you." I pulled the envelope from my clutch. "What's this?" He laughed, playing to the crowd. "Did you write me a speech too?" "Not exactly. Please open it." 3 years ago, everything changed, though my family never noticed. I'd just left my corporate consulting job, a career suicide move, according to Dad. We were having our monthly family dinner at their Westchester house, the one where my childhood photos mysteriously disappeared from the walls after Sophie made partner. "Madison's decided to throw away her Cornell education to play with computers," Dad announced to the table like I wasn't sitting right there. "It's actually a tech startup," I began. "While Sophie just landed the Morrison Industries account," Mom interrupted, passing Sophie the good china while I got the everyday plates. "Biggest client her firm's ever had." Sophie smiled modestly. "It's really not that big a deal, just a $50 million portfolio." "Don't be humble, sweetheart," Dad beamed. "Madison, you should take notes. This is what career progression looks like." They'd seated me at the far end of the table, next to Tyler, who was still an undergrad then. The kids' end, Mom called it, though I was 25. "At least Sophie can take care of herself," Mom sighed, refilling everyone's wine glass except mine. I got water. "We won't have to worry about her future." What they didn't know was that 12 hours earlier, I'd received my first term sheet from a venture capital firm. $2 million in seed funding. The email was still open on my phone under the table. Tyler had squeezed my hand. Even then, he knew something was wrong with how they treated me. But he was dependent on Dad's money for school, so he stayed quiet. "While Sophie makes partner," Dad continued, "Madison plays with computers in her pajamas." I let them laugh, let them think I was failing. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong immediately, it's waiting for the perfect moment. Thanksgiving last year had been the breaking point, though I'd hidden it well. Sophie arrived in her new Tesla, making sure to park it where everyone could see it from the dining room window. "Just a little bonus present to myself," she'd laughed. "200K bonus this year. I barely know what to do with it all." "That's my girl," Dad had said, while I helped Mom in the kitchen, the only contribution they seemed to value from me. During dinner, Dad decided to make Tyler his next project. My baby brother, sweet Tyler, who just wanted to help sick children, sat frozen as Dad lectured him. "You see, Sophie? That's your role model. Not—" He gestured vaguely in my direction. "Whatever this is. Still freelancing, Madison? Still living in that studio apartment?" "I'm doing fine, Dad." "Fine isn't successful. Sophie just bought a penthouse. Meanwhile, you're what, building websites for $20 an hour? Sophie had laughed. Dad, be nice. Not everyone can handle real pressure. Tyler, Dad turned back to my brother. Surgical residencies look at your entire family background. Don't let Madison's choices influence you. We can't afford another disappointment. Tyler's face had gone red. After dinner, he texted me from the bathroom. I'm so sorry. This is so fucked up. It's okay, I'd replied. Trust me. What none of them knew was that I'd just closed Series A funding that morning. $20 million. My little website business was now valued at more than Sophie would make in a decade. Mom's voice had carried from the living room. At least Sophie can help support Tyler if needed. God knows Madison can't. The email from my board of directors was still unread in my inbox. The one confirming my CEO compensation package. 400,000 base, plus equity worth 8 figures. If you've ever been the disappointment in your family while watching the golden child get all the praise, drop A in the comments. Your story matters, and you're not alone. I see you, and I promise, your worth isn't determined by their approval. What's the worst comparison your family ever made? Share below. Let's support each other. This community has become such a safe space for these conversations. And if this resonates, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the revelation is worth it. Now let me tell you what was really at stake that night. Tyler's situation was more precarious than anyone outside our family knew. Second year at Johns Hopkins Medical School. $80,000 a year in tuition alone, not counting living expenses, books, or the equipment he needed. Dad controlled every penny through an education trust our grandfather had set up, with Dad as the sole trustee. 2 months before the wedding, Tyler had called me crying. He's forcing me into surgical specialization, Tyler's voice had broken. Says pediatrics is for people who can't handle real medicine. Maddie, I've wanted to work with kids since I was 12. Since Emma, our cousin who'd died of leukemia when Tyler was young. The reason he wanted to be a doctor in the first place. He says if I don't switch to surgery, he'll stop payments. I'll have to drop out. Med school doesn't do payment plans, you know that. Without his money, I'm done. Have you talked to Mom? She said to listen to Dad, that he knows what's best for our careers. Tyler had laughed bitterly. Look how well Sophie turned out, she said. The trust was ironclad. I'd had a lawyer friend look at it quietly. Until Tyler turned 25, Dad had complete control. Any attempt to break it would take years in court. Years Tyler didn't have. 6 more years, Tyler had whispered. 6 more years of this. What killed me most was that I had the money. My company's valuation meant I could pay for 10 medical degrees without blinking. But revealing that would mean showing my hand too early, and Dad would find other ways to control Tyler. Emotional manipulation, threatening to cut him off from the family entirely. Just hold on, I'd told him. Trust me, please. Now watching Tyler's terrified face in that ballroom, I knew the moment had finally come. The cost of defying my family went beyond money. It meant complete exile from the only world I'd ever known. The Anderson family wasn't just my parents and siblings. It was a network of aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends who'd known me since birth. Every holiday, every celebration, every milestone, all of it would disappear if I didn't play my role. You know what happens to people who embarrass this family? Dad had warned me once, after Cousin Janet had refused to work for his friend's firm. She hadn't been invited to a family event in 5 years. Her children, my little cousins, didn't even know my name. If I refused tonight, the whispers would start immediately. Madison couldn't even manage a simple wedding speech. No wonder she's still single. Poor Robert and Linda, 2 daughters and only one success story. The Westchester Country Club where Dad golfed, Mom's charity board meetings, Sophie's legal network. They'd all hear about the freelance failure who couldn't even support her sister on her wedding day. But if I gave in, if I stood up there and praised Sophie while diminishing myself one more time, I'd lose something worse. Myself. My phone buzzed. An email from my board of directors, wondering why I hadn't responded to their latest proposal. The IPO discussion, the expansion into Europe, the government contract we'd just secured. They had no idea their CEO was standing in a bathroom stall at her sister's wedding, being threatened by her father. Tyler would lose medical school. I'd lose my family. But maintaining this charade meant losing my self-respect, my truth, my 3 years of silent sacrifice. The bathroom door opened. 5 minutes, Madison, the wedding coordinator called. I looked at myself in the mirror. The envelope in my clutch seemed to pulse with possibility. Sophie cornered me in the bridal suite just as I was heading back to the ballroom. We need to talk. She closed the door behind us, her wedding dress rustling like expensive paper. Alone. Sophie, I need to… No, you need to listen. Her bridal facade cracked slightly. I know about Seattle. My blood chilled. Seattle, the conference where I'd given the keynote as Phoenix Technologies CEO. I'd been so careful. I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the act. She pulled out her phone, showing me a LinkedIn notification. Madison Anderson viewed your profile, except it wasn't your regular profile, was it? It was your anonymous CEO one. You forgot to switch accounts. My mind raced. How much did she know? Whatever little project you're working on, Sophie continued, keep it quiet tonight. This is my day. My partners are here. Marcus's family is here. Important people who don't need to be confused by whatever game you're playing. It's not a game, isn't it? She stepped closer. Remember when you needed that reference letter last year? When no one else would vouch for the family disappointment? I helped you. The reference. For the government contract background check. She'd written it thinking she was helping her pathetic sister get a basic tech job. I remember. Good. Then you'll remember to stick to the script. Tell everyone how proud you are, how successful I am, how grateful you are to have me as a sister. She smiled coldly. Unless you want me to tell Dad about Seattle, imagine his reaction when he finds out you've been lying. She opened the door. 5 minutes, Madison. Don't ruin my wedding. As her heels clicked away, I realized she'd just given me the perfect opening. She thought Seattle was my secret. She had no idea how much bigger this actually was. My mother intercepted me just outside the bridal suite, materializing like she'd been waiting. Let me look at you. She started adjusting my dress without asking, tugging at the neckline, smoothing invisible wrinkles. This dress makes you look tired, Madison. You should have let me pick something from Nordstrom. It's fine, Mom. Fine isn't good enough for your sister's wedding. She pulled a lipstick from her purse. Here, at least fix your face. The photographers will be shooting the speech. I pushed her hand away gently. I'm okay. You're really not, her voice dropped. Do you know how many people have asked me about you tonight? What does Madison do? Is she married? How's her career? It's exhausting making excuses. Then don't. She grabbed my wrist, her manicured nails digging in slightly. We've covered for your failures long enough, Madison. That Seattle thing you thought we didn't know about? Sophie told us. Some tech conference? Really? While your sister's arguing cases before federal judges? So Sophie had already started spreading her version. Tonight, you're going to make us proud for once, Mom continued. You're going to tell everyone how amazing Sophie is, how she's mentored you, how grateful you are. And if I don't? Then I suppose Tyler will have to explain to his medical school why his tuition payment bounced. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Your father and I have sacrificed everything for you children. The least you can do is support your sister's happiness. The wedding coordinator's voice echoed. Madison Anderson to the stage, please. Mom patted my cheek, a gesture that felt more like a slap. Don't disappoint us again, sweetheart. As she walked away, I felt the weight of 28 years of being the family failure. In 3 minutes, that was about to change. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Madison Anderson. The spotlight hit me like a physical weight. 200 faces turned expectantly. The wedding coordinator handed me the microphone with a practiced smile while gesturing toward the small platform near the head table. My phone buzzed. Dad's text. "Remember Tyler." I looked across the room. Dad had positioned Tyler right next to him at the family table, his hand on my brother's shoulder, in what looked fatherly but was clearly a grip. Tyler's face was pale, his med school future hanging on my next words. Sophie sat at the head table like a queen holding court, her smile radiating confidence. She whispered something to Marcus, who laughed while looking directly at me. His parents sat rigid, waiting to judge whether the lesser sister could string together coherent sentences. 30 seconds, Madison, someone called out. "We're losing the light for photos." My hands trembled as I opened my clutch. The envelope was right there. 3 documents that would change everything. But something else caught my eye. A subtle nod from the corner of the room. The security guard I'd spoken to earlier. Just a small acknowledgement that he remembered our conversation. That he knew what might happen next. The official photographer circled closer, but I also spotted my hired photographer, positioned perfectly to capture the head table's reactions. Everything was in place. "Madison?" Dad's voice carried across the room. "We're all waiting." My fingers closed around the envelope. 3 years of preparation. 3 years of letting them think I was nothing. 3 years of building an empire while they laughed at my failures. Tyler mouthed silently, "Please." Sophie raised her champagne glass mockingly. I stepped onto the platform, envelope in hand. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steadier than expected. "Dad, would you join me up here? I have something for you." 6 months ago, everything had accelerated beyond my wildest dreams. I sat in the Phoenix Technologies boardroom, my boardroom, facing 3 venture capitalists who'd flown in from Silicon Valley. They weren't interested in small investments anymore. 50 million Series B, David Chen from Andreessen Horowitz had said, not asked, stated. "Your government contract alone justifies that valuation." "The platform's scalability is unprecedented," another added. "We're looking at potential IPO within 18 months. "There's one concern," David had mentioned, reviewing my file. "Your family situation. You're listed as Madison Anderson, but there's no public presence. No LinkedIn, no social media. In this climate, investors want to know who they're backing." "I keep my private life separate," I'd explained. "Family complications." "We get it. But when we go public, that anonymity ends. Press releases, fortune profiles, the works. Your family will know. Are you prepared for that?" I'd thought about Sophie's condescension, Dad's control, Mom's disappointment. Tyler trapped under their thumb. "When the time is right," I told them, "I'll handle my family situation." That time was tonight. The company name, Phoenix Technologies, hadn't been random. A phoenix rises from ashes, reborn from destruction. Every mock, every insult, every comparison to Sophie had been fuel for the fire. My phone had lit up with the funding confirmation that day. $50 million. My personal equity worth 8 figures overnight. The same day Sophie had posted about her record-breaking bonus. "Sometimes the best revenge is massive success nobody sees coming," I'd told my CFO. "Why hide it?" he'd asked. "Because revealing power at the right moment multiplies its impact," I'd replied. Now, standing on that platform with Dad approaching, the envelope heavy in my hand, I knew that moment had arrived. The irony of Sophie's success wasn't lost on me. I'd been funding it for 6 months without her knowing. Her law firm, Preston and Associates, had been struggling despite their reputation. Commercial real estate law was dying. They needed to pivot to tech law, but lacked the capital and connections. That's when an anonymous investor had appeared through a shell company, offering 40% equity investment in exchange for restructuring. Sophie had bragged about it endlessly at family dinners. "We got this mysterious benefactor," she'd said at Easter. "$40 million investment. They're letting us expand into tech law, AI contracts, startup consulting. My specialty is finally valued." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Mom had beamed. "See, Madison? Real careers attract real money." Dad had added, Success recognizes success. This investor clearly saw Sophie's potential. Marcus had been suspicious, though. It's odd, he'd mentioned at that same dinner. They insisted on quarterly reports but never attend meetings. Everything goes through some subsidiary called Rising Ventures. Rising Ventures. My holding company. Named after what I plan to do, rise above their expectations. Sophie's sudden promotion to junior partner? That was my doing. The expansion into tech law? My strategy. The new offices in Seattle? Positioned perfectly near my headquarters. She'd been taking credit for my decisions for months, having no idea her despised older sister was pulling the strings. Every triumphant announcement, every bonus, every accolade, all possible because of the failure sitting at the end of the family table. The investor must really believe in our vision, Sophie had said just last week. Oh, I believed in something all right. I believed in the poetic justice of Sophie discovering she'd been reporting to me all along. The documentation was all in the envelope. Every contract, every signature, every proof that Sophie's golden success was actually Madison's strategic investment. Dad reached the platform with the confidence of a man who'd never lost control of a situation. He took the microphone from me immediately, his hand on my shoulder in that same controlling grip he'd used on Tyler. Before Madison speaks, he announced to the crowd, let me share something about my daughters. The room quieted. Sophie leaned forward, anticipating her praise. Sophie, Dad gestured grandly. Yale Law, junior partner, married to Marcus from the prestigious Chen family. And Madison, he paused, his grip tightening. Well, Madison's here to support her sister. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I recognized the CFO of Morgan Stanley at table 3, someone who'd be very interested in what came next. You see, Dad continued, in every family, there are those who achieve and those who try. Madison's been trying to find herself for 3 years now. He smiled at the crowd like we were sharing an inside joke. Freelancing, she calls it. We call it exploring options. More laughter. Sophie raised her glass in mock solidarity. Marcus's parents exchanged knowing looks, their fears about our family's pedigree confirmed. But that's what family does, Dad squeezed my shoulder harder. We support each other, even when the gap in achievement is significant. Right, Madison? He held the microphone toward me, expecting me to take my cue, to shrink, to confirm his narrative. Tyler's face had gone white. Mom nodded encouragingly, expecting me to play along. Sophie mouthed thank you preemptively. I looked at the envelope in my hand, then at the CFO who'd started paying attention, at my hired photographer, camera ready. Actually, Dad, I said calmly, taking the microphone back, I have something for you first. I held out the envelope. Sophie rose from the head table like a shark sensing blood in the water. Her dress train swept dramatically as she approached the platform, every inch the successful bride. Oh, Madison, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. You didn't have to get Dad a gift. This is my day, remember? She laughed, musical and false. She climbed the 2 steps to join us, linking her arm through mine in what looked like sisterly affection, but felt like a shackle. Everyone, Sophie announced, taking the microphone. My sweet sister has prepared something special. She's always been so creative with her gestures. The condescension dripped like honey. Several guests smiled sympathetically. Poor Madison, trying so hard to matter. Sophie leaned in close, her voice a whisper only Dad and I could hear. Stick to the script, or I'll tell everyone about your little Seattle fantasy right now. She pulled back, beaming at the crowd. Madison's been working so hard on her projects. Haven't you, sis? Tell everyone about your freelance work. Dad loves hearing about your little websites. She pressed the microphone into my hand while maintaining her grip on my arm. The perfect picture of sisterly support while literally holding me in place. Marcus called out from the head table. Let's hear it for Madison. His tone suggested he was throwing a bone to the family dog. Dad still hadn't taken the envelope, holding his hands behind his back like I was offering him something contaminated. "Go on, sweetheart," Mom called out. "Tell everyone how proud you are of Sophie." The wedding photographer moved closer, ready to capture the moment of family unity. My photographer adjusted his angle, knowing something bigger was coming. Sophie's nails dug into my arm. "Last chance," she hissed. I smiled. "You're right, Sophie. This is your day. And I'm about to make it unforgettable." I pressed the envelope into Dad's hands before he could refuse it. "Please, Dad, just open it." He looked at the crowd, then at Sophie, trying to maintain his composure. "Madison, this isn't the time. It's the perfect time." I kept my voice calm, professional. "You've just told everyone about my career. Let me show them what that actually means." Sophie tried to grab the envelope. "Madison, stop." "No." I pulled away from her grip. 200 people just heard Dad's assessment of my life. They deserve the truth. Dad laughed uncomfortably. "Must be her speech notes, everyone. Madison always overprepares when she's nervous." He started to open the envelope casually, playing to the crowd. I watched his face, knowing the exact moment his world would shift. The first document came out. His eyes scanned it, and his smile froze. "What?" His voice cracked. "What is this?" "Keep reading," I said into the microphone, ensuring everyone could hear. Sophie lunged for the papers, but Dad had already pulled them out completely. 3 documents. 3 pieces of evidence that everything they believed about me was wrong. The room had gone completely silent. Even the catering staff stopped moving. The CFO from Morgan Stanley was now standing, trying to see better. Dad's hands started shaking. The papers rustled in the quiet ballroom. His face went from confused to shocked to something approaching fear. "This can't be real," he whispered, but the microphone caught it. Sophie managed to grab one document. Her face went white as she read. "Madison?" Tyler's voice carried from the family table, hopeful and terrified simultaneously. Marcus's mother whispered urgently to her husband. The wedding photographer kept shooting, capturing every second of the collapse. "Read it out loud, Dad," I said. "Tell everyone what you're holding." The look on his face was priceless. "If you're wondering what was in that envelope, trust me, it's worth the wait." 3 documents that changed everything in seconds. Have you ever had a moment where you finally proved everyone wrong? Share your victory in the comments. We're celebrating quiet wins today. This community has become such a powerful space for people who've been underestimated. And remember to like this video if you're Team Madison. Your support means everything. Now, let me tell you exactly what those documents were, and watch how quickly a golden child can lose their shine. Dad's voice shook as he read aloud, unable to stop himself. Master of Business Administration, Wharton School of Business, Madison Elizabeth Anderson, summa cum laude, valedictorian. He looked up at me, then back at the paper. "Graduated 2 years ago?" Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Sophie snatched the diploma from his hands. "This is fake. She was freelancing. We would have known." "Check the seal," I said calmly. "Check the date. Call Wharton if you'd like. Their office is closed now, but I'm sure they'd confirm on Monday." The CFO from Morgan Stanley was typing rapidly on his phone, probably Googling Wharton's graduation records. "You were supposedly working from home," Mom called out, her voice cracking. "Building websites." I was. During the day. Wharton's executive MBA program runs evenings and weekends. Every Friday, I drove to Philadelphia. Every Sunday, I drove back. For 2 years. Tyler stood up at the family table. "That's why you were never at weekend dinners." "Exactly." Dad was still staring at the diploma. "Valedictorian. You were valedictorian. At Wharton." "With a 4.0 GPA, I added. "My thesis on fintech disruption won the Dean's Award. But you're right, Dad. Sophie's the successful one." Marcus's father leaned forward, suddenly interested. Wharton's executive program is harder to get into than their regular MBA. Impossible, Sophie insisted, but her voice had lost its confidence. You couldn't afford scholarship, I interrupted. Full ride. Turns out they really wanted someone with my startup experience. What startup? Dad's question came out as barely a whisper. I smiled. Check the second document. The room held its breath as he unfolded the next paper. His face went from pale to ashen. No, he breathed. This can't be real. Phoenix Technologies Incorporated, Dad read, his voice hollow. Chief Executive Officer appointment, Madison Elizabeth Anderson, annual base salary. He stopped, unable to continue. $400,000, I finished for him, plus equity. The ballroom erupted, guests talking over each other, phones coming out, people Googling frantically. Sophie grabbed the document. Phoenix Technologies? That's the company that just got the Defense Department contract. The CFO from Morgan Stanley stood up completely. Phoenix Tech just closed 50 million Series B. Their valuation is north of 200 million, I confirmed. As of last month. Dad sank into the chair someone pushed behind him. You're the CEO? The Madison Anderson who gave the keynote at Seattle Tech Summit? The very same. But you said you were freelancing. Mom's voice pitched toward hysteria. I said I was working in tech from home. You assumed the rest. I turned to address the room. For 3 years, I've built Phoenix Technologies from my apartment while my family thought I was a failure. We now have 42 employees, 3 government contracts, and offices in New York and Seattle. Tyler was crying, actually crying. Maddie, oh my God, Marcus's mother whispered urgently to her husband. Several of Dad's banking colleagues were making calls. This explains the IPO rumors, someone said. Phoenix is going public next year. Sophie's hands shook as she held the CEO appointment letter. Your equity, what's it worth? At current valuation? I paused. Approximately $87 million. Dad made a sound like he'd been punched. But wait, I said, taking the third document from Sophie's limp fingers. This one's my favorite. This one directly involves you, Sophie. Her face went from white to green. What do you mean? Read it. Sophie's voice came out as a strangled whisper as she read the investment agreement. Rising Ventures LLC, a wholly owned subsidiary of Phoenix Technologies, 40% equity stake in Preston and Associates law firm. The document slipped from her fingers, floating to the floor in the silent ballroom. You? Her voice cracked. You're our anonymous investor? Surprise, I said quietly. Marcus shot to his feet. Wait, Sophie, your promotion was approved by the board after the investment, I confirmed. By me, specifically. I thought you deserved it, Sophie. You're actually quite talented when you're not wasting energy putting others down. Dad tried to speak, but no sound came out. Every quarterly report, Sophie said faintly, every strategic decision, every expansion into tech law, went through me. You've been reporting to your failure sister for 6 months. I turned to the crowd. Sophie's success this year? The bonuses? The new offices? All possible because I invested $40 million in her firm. Why? Sophie's perfect makeup was running. Why would you? Because despite everything, you're still my sister. And I believe in lifting people up, not tearing them down. I looked at Dad. Something you never taught us. The CFO from Morgan Stanley was on his phone. It's true. SEC filings confirm it. Rising Ventures owns 40% of Preston and Associates. Marcus stared at Sophie. You've been working for your sister, the one you called a disappointment, the one you mocked. I didn't know, Sophie sobbed. No, I agreed. You didn't know. Just like you didn't know I graduated valedictorian. Just like you didn't know I built a company worth hundreds of millions. Because you were too busy assuming I was beneath you to actually see me. Tyler started laughing, actually laughing through his tears. I turned to face Tyler directly, speaking into the microphone so everyone could hear. Tyler Anderson, I said formally. I'm pleased to announce the creation of the Tyler Anderson Medical Education Fund, administered by Phoenix Technologies Foundation. Tyler's sob was audible throughout the ballroom. Initial funding, $500,000. This covers your complete medical education, residency expenses, and living costs through your pediatric specialization. Dad tried to stand. You can't. I can and I did. The paperwork was filed yesterday. The fund is irrevocable and completely independent. No family members on the board. No conditions except maintaining good academic standing. Tyler was pushing through the crowd, tears streaming down his face. Furthermore, I continued, Phoenix Technologies is partnering with Johns Hopkins to fund pediatric research. Dr. Williams, your mentor, will be heading the program. You'll have a guaranteed research position if you want it. Tyler reached the platform and threw his arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder. Maddie, I can't. Yes, you can. Your dreams are yours now. Nobody can take them away. Dad found his voice. This is manipulation. No, Dad. Manipulation is threatening to destroy your son's dreams to control your daughters. This is freedom. I held Tyler tighter. You want to help sick kids? Then help them. The fund also includes scholarships for other medical students from controlling families. You'll help select the recipients. The crowd was applauding now, actually applauding. Several people were wiping their eyes. Marcus's mother said loudly, "Now that's how you support family." Mom reached for Tyler, but he stepped behind me. My son is free, I said firmly. Free to become the pediatrician he's meant to be. Free from financial manipulation. Free from your conditions. Tyler whispered, "Thank you for saving me. You were never supposed to need saving from your own family." I turned back to Sophie, who stood frozen on the platform, her wedding dress suddenly looking like costume armor that had cracked. Regarding Preston and Associates, I said, maintaining professional calm. Effective immediately, Phoenix Technologies will no longer be a silent partner. All communication will go through our legal team. Quarterly reports are still required. Performance metrics remain unchanged. Madison, please, Sophie started. It's Ms. Anderson in professional contexts. I kept my voice neutral. Your firm is a solid investment. Don't make me regret it. Dad finally found his legs and tried to grab the microphone. This is family business. I pulled it away and nodded to the security guard I'd spoken with earlier. He moved toward the platform. Actually, it's just business now. I addressed Dad directly but loudly enough for everyone to hear. Family privileges are revoked. If you want to discuss Tyler's education, go through the foundation. If you want to discuss Preston and Associates, go through our corporate lawyers. The security guard reached Dad. Sir, please step down from the platform. This is my daughter's wedding. And you're disrupting it, I said calmly. Please return to your seat. The CFO from Morgan Stanley called out. Ms. Anderson, might we discuss Phoenix's IPO timeline? Contact my office Monday, I replied, then turned back to my family. Sophie, you're talented. Your firm will do well if you focus on the work instead of the hierarchy. Mom, Dad, you have two successful daughters. Shame you could only see one. Marcus approached the platform. The prenup doesn't affect the investment. That's between you and Sophie. I looked at my sister. Though I'd recommend honesty going forward, it works better than assumptions. The security guard escorted Dad back to his table. The power dynamic had completely shifted. The ballroom erupted into chaos the moment I stepped off the platform. Half the guests surrounded me, business cards appearing, congratulations flowing, investment pitches starting. The other half surrounded Sophie, but not to congratulate the bride. They whispered, pointed, some even laughed. Madison! The CFO from Morgan Stanley pushed through. We need to talk about Phoenix's banking needs. Monday, I repeated, but he pressed his card into my hand anyway. Sophie had fled to the bridal suite, her bridesmaids trailing behind like confused ducklings. Through the door, we could all hear her sobbing. Marcus stood outside, looking lost. Did you know? He asked me quietly. That she was talented but insecure? Yes. That she'd built her entire identity on being better than me? Also, yes. I touched his shoulder. She's still the same person you married. Maybe now she can be herself instead of the successful daughter. Mom tried to approach, her arms open for a hug. I stepped back. Madison, sweetheart, we had no idea. Yes, you did. You had every idea about who you thought I was. You just never bothered to look deeper. We're proud of you. Now. You're proud now. When there's proof. I shook my head. That's not how parental love is supposed to work. My hired photographer approached discreetly. I got everything. Every reaction. Every document shown. Should I send them to your office? Please. Dad sat at the family table, staring at nothing. His banking colleagues gave him a wide berth. In one revelation, he'd gone from respected patriarch to the fool who couldn't recognize success in his own home. Tyler stayed by my side, fielding his own share of congratulations about the medical fund. The wedding, Mom said weakly. The reception. Will continue, I said. This is still Sophie's day. I'm leaving now. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. 47 missed calls from Dad, 18 from Mom, 12 from Sophie. Over 30 texts ranging from, "How could you?" to, "Please answer," to, "We need to talk about this as a family." Tyler, who'd insisted on walking me out, looked at my phone. They're panicking. They're realizing they lost control. I silenced the phone. How are you feeling? Free? He laughed, then cried, then laughed again. For the first time in my life, I'm free. But also, he paused. We don't have a family anymore, do we? We have each other. That's family. A text from Sophie cut through the silence I'd set. My honeymoon is cancelled. Marcus wants to reassess. You destroyed my marriage. I showed Tyler. I didn't destroy anything. I revealed the truth. Another text, from Mom. Your father is having chest pains, the stress you've caused. He's fine, Tyler said immediately. He does this. Anytime he loses control, suddenly he has chest pains. Remember when I tried to switch majors the first time? By the time I got home, the family text chain had exploded. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone had heard. Some supported me, sharing their own stories of Dad's manipulation. Others called me cruel, ungrateful, vindictive. Cousin Janet, the one who'd been exiled 5 years ago, sent a private message. Finally, someone stood up to them. Welcome to the free side. Then, at 2 a.m., a text from Dad's lawyer. Mr. Anderson is exploring legal options regarding the Tyler Anderson Medical Fund and the investment in Preston and Associates. I forwarded it to my legal team with one note. Expected this. Proceed as discussed. The war had officially begun. Monday morning, Sophie's attempt to challenge the investment landed on my desk before my coffee got cold. She's claiming coercion, my general counsel explained, barely suppressing a smile. Says you took advantage of insider family knowledge to manipulate the investment. Insider knowledge that her firm was failing? That's public record. Exactly. We have every email where she bragged about the anonymous investor, every document she signed, every celebration she posted on LinkedIn. He slid a folder across. This won't even make it to court. Dad's attempt was more creative, claiming emotional distress and demanding damages for public humiliation and defamation. Defamation? I laughed. I told the truth. With documentation, my lawyer added. His own words on record calling you a failure. His texts threatening Tyler's education. He played himself. By Wednesday, Sophie's rebellion collapsed. Her firm's other partners had made it clear: fight the investment and lose their jobs, or accept it and thrive. She sent one email. The firm accepts Phoenix Technologies' continued investment. All future communication will go through appropriate channels. Then, a personal note. I understand now what it felt like to be dismissed. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Sorry was a start, not a solution. Tyler texted updates from school. Switch to pediatrics officially. Dr. Williams says the research program is incredible. Dad called 17 times. I didn't answer once. The extended family chose sides. Dad's brothers backed him, until they learned about Phoenix's government contracts. Money talks louder than blood, apparently. Mom tried emotional manipulation. Family therapy, please? Individual therapy first, I responded. For all of you. Then maybe. By Friday, the dust had settled. Preston and Associates was thriving under my investment. Tyler was free. My parents were contained. And I was finally visible, finally valued, finally myself. 6 months later, Phoenix Technologies went public at a $300 million valuation. Tyler called me from Johns Hopkins, where he'd just been selected for the pediatric research program. Did you see the news? You're officially a multimillionaire, like publicly. Did Dad see? Oh, he saw. Aunt Carol said he threw his iPad across the room. We laughed, but it was tinged with sadness. 6 months of no contact with our parents. 6 months of freedom, but also 6 months of grieving the family we'd never really had. Sophie's firm was thriving under our investment. They'd just landed 3 major tech clients. She sent quarterly reports through our legal team, professional and thorough. At the bottom of the last one, handwritten, I understand now. She'd sent one personal email a month ago. Marcus and I are in counseling. I'm learning that my worth isn't comparative, that success doesn't require someone else's failure. I'm sorry it took losing you to learn that. I'd replied with one line, focus on the work. The Tyler Anderson Medical Fund had awarded its first scholarships, 5 medical students from financially controlling families. Tyler personally interviewed each one. They all have the same look, he told me. That trapped, desperate hope, like I had. Mom sent letters, actual paper letters. I didn't open them, but I didn't throw them away either. They sat in a box marked maybe someday. Dad tried once more to assert control, showing up at Phoenix's headquarters. Security turned him away. The photo made it into TechCrunch. CEO Madison Anderson's father denied entry to daughter's billion-dollar company. The headline was wrong. Phoenix wasn't worth $1 billion yet. But we would be. Tyler was free. Sophie was learning. My parents were irrelevant. And I was everything they said I'd never be. Here's what I learned from that wedding revelation. Family isn't owed unlimited access to your life. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. And loyalty doesn't mean blind obedience or accepting diminishment. Real family celebrates your victories, even the quiet ones. Real family sees your worth before the world validates it. Tyler and I have dinner every Sunday now, our own tradition, no parents invited. He's thriving in pediatrics, already working on research that could change how we treat childhood leukemia. The little boy who wanted to save sick kids is becoming the doctor who actually will. Sophie and I exist in professional parallel. She runs her firm well, and my investment grows. Maybe someday we'll be sisters again, but not today. Today, we're business associates, and that's enough. My parents? They exist in a world where they're victims of an ungrateful daughter. Let them. I exist in a world where I'm CEO of a successful company, where Tyler is free, where truth matters more than appearance. Boundaries aren't walls. They're property lines. They say, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I'll accept and what I won't. This is who I am, with or without your approval. You don't need permission to be successful. You don't need validation to have worth. You don't need family approval to build your empire. Sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. Sometimes the best revenge is massive success they never see coming. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to stop trying to save relationships with people who only love the version of you they can control. Your worth is not comparative. Your success is not dependent on someone else's failure. Your dreams deserve protection, especially from those who claim to love you most. If you've made it this far, you're probably processing your own family dynamics. That's okay, it's heavy stuff. What boundaries do you wish you could set with your family? Drop a comment below. This is a safe space for honest conversation. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. I share stories about choosing yourself over toxic expectations every week. What's your golden child story? Were you the golden child who realized the pedestal was a prison? Or the scapegoat who broke free? I read every comment. Until next time, remember, you're enough, exactly as you are.